Welcome to Media Thread, the video series where I cover my favorite media texts of the year and rank them as they appear. It's yet another TV show, and it should come as no surprise that Andor Season 2 made the cut. That said, I don't think this final season is quite as good as the first one. The first 3-episode arc, while good, is easily the weakest arc of Andor thus far. We spend a couple of episodes with these fairly unlikable characters who don't matter much in the grand scheme of things. And I get that the writers wanted to show how rusty the rebellion was in its early stages, but this is a point that could have been conveyed quicker without so much filler. It is true that Andor has always been a slow burn, but in Season 1, just about every scene added something of value, whereas Season 2 contained some scenes that can clearly be removed to the story's benefit. The reveal that Andor was being held captive on Yavin 4 was a cool detail though. The Chandrillan wedding rituals were interesting to see as well, and I liked the explorations of Mon Mothma's psyche during the event. It was also disturbingly fun to watch Syril Karn and Dedra Meero's awkward romance, especially while visiting Cyril's mom. As is the case with most Andor arcs, this one is also elevated by its climax. However, the climax in question is also fairly weak compared to other arc climaxes. The biggest thing that happens in it is Brasso's death, which is sad, but it's not the most interesting development. I guess it doesn't help that every arc jumps by 1 year, as that can diminish the immediate repercussions of an arc's ending. At the same time, it is a cool and necessary gimmick that gradually brings us closer to Rogue One's time frame, so I don't mind it too much. I wouldn't say the second arc is much better than the first, but it does have fewer flaws. I'll admit I was a bit bored by episode 4, in spite of some good world building for Gorman, but it gets a lot more compelling in episode 5. I also found the Wilman scenes with Saw Gerrera engaging, and I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get to see more of Saw's escapades. Episode 6 is a climax that's about on par with episode 3, being really good but not the best. Still, it features a fairly intense operation where an immature Gorman dude accidentally shoots Cinta. Vel's brutal scolding of him displayed some fantastic acting from Faye Marseille. It's the third arc where this season finally shines. Maybe not in episode 7, but it is a good lead-in to the carefully orchestrated Gorman massacre that takes place in episode 8. I'll admit, when I first saw Andor Season 1, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but the fantastic payoffs in the arc's climaxes retroactively enhanced the slower episodes, making me appreciate the season a whole lot more on a rewatch. I haven't rewatched Season 2 yet, but while I'm still pretty sure some of its scenes are unnecessary, the tremendous payoffs across episodes 8 to 10 makes the season worthwhile in spite of its faults. Season 2 Episode 8 Who Are You received the most praise, and it's not hard to see why. We've spent so much time getting to know the Gorman people and learning about their culture that the Gorman massacre hits hard. These are decent people who were unlucky to be caught up in the Empire's evil schemes. Syril Karn was also unknowingly used by the Empire to bring about this terrible outcome, and I like how he represents the audience in gradually developing an attachment to the Gormans. This episode also pays off the relationship between Syril and Andor, which boils down to Andor living rent-free in Cyril's mind, whereas Andor doesn't even know who Syril is. It's so telling that Syril can't answer Andor's question, "Who are you?" Him getting shot in the head right afterwards is such a tragic end for a guy who wanted to do what he thought was right. Dreena's cry for help and Andor's tears at the end cap off a tragic episode with even more sadness. On the bright side, Andor has found K2SO, the funny droid from Rogue One. Then again, that doesn't make this episode any less depressing, and Janus Metz managed to portray this massacre with horrific realism, making for one of the ugliest scenes in all of Star Wars, in a good way. Season 2 Episode 9 Welcome to the Rebellion is just as captivating, and I'm not sure which episode I prefer of the two. Season 1 of Andor was hailed for its well-written speeches, and in this episode, Mon Mothma takes center stage with her own incredible speech. It's so cathartic to hear her declare Emperor Palpatine as the bad guy in public. It gives off similar vibes as Marva encouraging the people of Ferrix to fight the Empire, just on a much bigger scale. Of course, Mon Mothma can't say that without fleeing Coruscant, and it's so exciting to watch Andor escort her out. He catches some bodies along the way, giving Mon Mothma a taste of how ruthless the Rebel Alliance must be in order to defeat the Empire. Luthen Rael makes a similar gesture as he kills Lani after receiving information from IBS. Perhaps it's a necessary loss, but it's a cruel act nonetheless, and Luthen knows it. This is the longest episode of Andor, and I was engaged for every second of it. This arc easily had the best climax, and it really ought to, as it has 2 episodes of climax, which I guess is cheating, but it is what it is. The best 3-episode stretch in all of Andor doesn't end here though, as the next arc easily has the best opener of the series. I'm not sure if Season 2, Episode 10, Make It Stop, is as strong as the 2 preceding episodes, but it's easily a top 3 episode of the season. Luthen Rael was by far my favorite character of Season 1, and it's a bit of a shame that he's not as present in this one, but it was wonderful to get an episode entirely dedicated to him, and his partner in crime Kleya, of course. Luthen sacrifices himself at the beginning of the episode as he's confronted by Dedra, and while Dedra tries to revive him, Kleya is on a mission to end Luthen's life for good, so that valuable information can't leak out. The flashbacks to Kleya and Luthen's past are very interesting and add much sought-after context to their relationship. To Kleya, Luthen is one of the murderers who partook in the massacre of her people, but he's also like a father to her. It's a complicated case which makes it both cathartic and difficult for her to kill Luthen. It's a very sad episode that had me tearing up at the end. Even though Luthen took a bit of a back seat this season, he's still my favorite character in Andor as a whole, and Kleya got a major boost in this episode. I'm not sure who my favorite character of this season is, but it might be between Luthen, Kleya, Cyril, Mon Mothma, and Andor. The final 2 episodes of Andor definitely weren't as strong as these 3 I just covered, but they did a solid job concluding the story leading up to Rogue One. I like watching Director Krennic go off on Dedra, and it's wholesome seeing Andor and Melshi play games with K2SO. Also, I'll admit I cried like a little bitch seeing Bix Kalleen holding her and Andor's child at the end, knowing that Andor doesn't make it back from his final mission. This show leads perfectly into the movie Rogue One, and they both complement each other very well. In the end, while I find Season 1 of Andor superior, Season 2 is still a great season of television that left me mostly satisfied with the show's ending. It's probably for the best that this show kept it so short, since other Star Wars shows tend to go on for too long with plenty of filler episodes, at least if Dave Filoni is involved. There were some filler scenes this season, but every episode was important to complete the story. The high quality paired with the consistency makes Andor the best Star Wars TV show to exist, and it's also the best Star Wars content that Disney has to offer. It doesn't really touch dark, however, so it's at the bottom of my Media Thread 2025 ranking for now. I'm Arcadon, and hopefully, you'll see me next time!